Testing, 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 testing. Sorry, I just needed to change my shirt. That sweater was way too hot. I started to sweat literally 30 seconds into making the video, so let's just acknowledge the shirt change and move on. Hey guys, how's it going? It's Curtis here. I hope you're having a great day, and if not, try to get outside. That usually cheers up my day. So today, I just really wanted to talk about the first camera that I ever bought. So this is my first camera. This is my Canon SL2. Yeah, and I just love this thing. End the video. It's a small entry-level camera that's super lightweight, and honestly, I love this camera. I bought this camera in 2020 when I first started to get into photography, and quite honestly, I still use it to this day almost weekly. I have nothing but good things to say about this camera. It has treated me so well over the last 3 years. And I just kind of wanted to explain what my whole thought process was about why I picked this camera and kind of how it helped me get forward in photography, how it helped me with video content, and yeah, how it just helped me as a photographer. So why did I pick this camera as my first camera, my entry-level camera? I picked this camera because when I was first getting into photography, I didn't really know what to look for. I didn't know what features I should want or what I didn't know what features a camera should have that I should be interested in. I had no idea. I had to start from somewhere, and that was ground zero. Looking at camera specs over my head, honestly still happens today. I went on the Canon website, I went to entry-level cameras, filtered by price, lowest, and I went with the second cheapest camera. That was my only reasoning as to why I picked this camera. Okay, maybe a little bit more. I saw that it had a 24 megapixel sensor, which when I was looking at other cameras, some had 12 or 18 or whatever weird numbers, and I thought 24 was a pretty good ground spot. And then I noticed that it also did 1080p video, which one day, if I wanted to get into video content, that this camera could at least record 1080p, and that's good enough. I'm a good future thinker here. Sometimes. If you watched my last video, you'd know that I have the Sony a7 III, and I love that camera. That camera is incredible. But quite honestly, I still, again, like I use this camera weekly. I can take this camera anywhere with me, and I don't have the stress about it being my only camera, that it's super brand new. I can be a little bit more loose with it, which helps me get some really cool shots. The fact that it's like super small and super lightweight, I barely even notice that I'm holding it. Like, this is literally just my middle finger, and it's really not that heavy. It's just a great little camera to have, and the image quality is super great. Some of my friends are on a baseball team, and I love to go to their games and take photos of them all. It's super fun. I have a great time with them. It's also my in for the team party at the end of the year, so you know, it's a good trade-off. But I would never take my Sony camera, the one that I use for real estate and my business, I would never take that camera to the baseball diamond, because the dirt, sand, sensor, baseballs that have come really close to hitting me, if that hit my Sony camera, I would be screwed. Whereas if anything happens to this camera in terms of silt, sand, sensor dust, or worst case scenario, this camera were to break, I'm not gonna be too stressed about it. It would suck, but I'm not gonna be that stressed. And that's a huge plus about keeping this one around. I've spent probably hundreds of hours behind this camera. I've taken thousands and thousands of photos with it. I know how this camera works. I know how it operates. The ergonomics of it are very smooth. I know where everything is. I never have to look at where my buttons are. I just know how to work this camera super quickly and efficiently. I've taken all of my nature photos, some portraits, headshots, stargazing photos, sport photos, and some night photography, like street photography and other things like that. Quite honestly, majority of those photos that you just saw were with this kit lens. This 18 to 55 f4 kit lens. I've actually really grown to love this lens. When I first started out, thought that this lens wasn't great, and yeah, that might be true. It's not the best lens out there. It's a kit lens, it comes with the camera. Using this lens in the right light and understanding the camera, this has actually become one of my favorite lenses. I actually love this whole setup here. Here are some things that I really love about this camera. Starting off with the price. Again, I went on the Canon website, I filtered by lowest price, and I found this camera. It's the second cheapest camera at the time when I bought it. And the fact that this is a crop sensor camera, an APS-C sensor, those are typically on the more affordable side of things, or the cheaper of the two if you were to go crop sensor or full frame. Yeah, this just makes a very affordable, great camera. Once again, just the size of this camera, like it's so small. small. Like my hand like engulfs this thing, but like it's so lightweight. Like you're never too concerned about holding a super heavy camera setup or anything like that. It's super portable. You just throw it in any bag and you're good to go. Yeah, it's just a really portable camera. One thing that I really liked about this camera, and maybe it's just a Canon system setup that I like, but I found that the menu system in here and how to operate the camera, even like changing your settings within the menu system, I actually found it super easy to navigate. And maybe that is just a Canon thing. I don't have much experience with Canon cameras other than this one. If this menu system says anything about their other cameras and their newer cameras, then Canon's interface is fantastic. Yeah, I just found it as like beginner, you know, changing things when you're starting something new, especially in photography where it can seem so technical and all this stuff. And I used to have those thoughts all the time. I found that this interface made it super easy for me to understand what I was doing, where I was changing, where to find certain menu settings. Yeah, I just thought that it was super user-friendly. I think a lot of beginners would be happy with the Canon interface as opposed to the Sony interface, which honestly, it still confuses me. I know where like the 4 things are that I need. Other than that, I don't know. Are there things about this camera that I don't like? Yeah, like absolutely. It's an entry-level camera. It's kind of what you pay for, right? So again, some of you might be thinking, well, if I'm raving so much about this camera, why don't I use it in my real estate business? Well, here are some reasons why. There's no dual SD card slot, so I just have one SD card slot, which again, might not be the biggest of deals, but just having that security of a backup file right away, especially when someone's paying me money for a shoot, makes a little bit of a difference and lets me kind of relax knowing that my files are automatically backed up. There is no 4K recording on this, so 1080p is great, but that 4K quality, it just makes your production value just a little bit better, a little bit more crisp. And 4K footage has actually saved me in the past. This camera does not have very good ISO performance. I find that with entry-level cameras and crop sensors specifically, I find that ISO performance is not that great at all. Anything over 800 ISO on this camera basically becomes unusable because of how much grain and noise there is. So that's definitely a huge feature for me. Sometimes, even when I'm just making real estate videos, if I'm in a really dark basement, my ISO needs to be over 10,000. And considering I said anything more than 800 is an issue for this camera, that would not be good. I think this camera actually maxes out at 12,800, so it's not usable. Next is the dynamic range. When you take your files from a full frame camera, it honestly kind of blows your mind what you're able to do with those files in terms of editing, in terms of shadow recovery or bringing down your highlights. It's just something that this camera and its files just don't offer you. Next is focus. Being an entry-level camera, comparing it to professional grade cameras, they're built and they have better focus settings. They're able to grab focus better. They're able to grab it a lot faster. I find that going from this Sony camera to this camera, when I'm focusing, and let's say at my friend's baseball game, this camera focusing, I can like count how long it takes to focus. Whereas the Sony camera, it's like, I change the subject and it's like, focus. This camera, it's kind of like, focus. And I don't really like know what the term is or what the phrase would be, but it's almost like your like refresh rate, I guess. I don't know, that's what I'm gonna say. When I want to change settings on here, when I want to do something super quick, I find that there's like a bit of like a lag and that it can just be like slow. And that's not just like changing shutter speed or something like that. It's like when I'm in the menu system and I'm changing something, it's just a little bit slower on here. But when I want to change settings on my Sony camera, I find that it's very instant and I can get back to shooting like a snap of my fingers. Yeah, I just find that using those professional grade cameras, it's just a little bit quicker. Everything's just faster. It happens quicker and it lets you capture those moments. Even though I do real estate, it still lets me move way faster. It still lets me move way faster than if I was using this. Now, in saying all of that, have I still taken photos that I love that I use as my background on my phone? That's getting shut off. I don't even know where I was. Have I taken photos with this camera that I absolutely love, that I use as my phone backgrounds, as my wallpapers on my computer, that I still show to my friends and being like, man, look at this shot I took? Absolutely. Again, I use this camera still, like all the time. This is my go-to camera when I'm traveling. I understand how to use this camera. My fingers navigate without me even thinking at this point. And yeah, I just find that it's a fantastic camera and I'm still can produce some wicked images with it. One thing that I really love about this camera is this flip screen. It's something that my Sony camera doesn't have. It has a tilt screen. When I'm making those little short form content videos that I've been making, or all my other videos that I've ever made, they've all been recorded with this. This flip screen is unbelievable. I love having this. That's what makes this such a video camera, and I actually think this camera is built for video more than it is photos. So for those of you who are looking to get into photography and you feel a little bit intimidated, or when you start looking up cameras, all you see is the crazy prices that are out there, or you look up these people and everyone's showing off professional grade cameras and oh, you need this and oh, you need that. But seriously, entry-level cameras just like this are unbelievable, and they produce amazing images that are sharp, crisp, and clean. Again, I record all of my footage on this. I record all of my content on this, except for this one video in particular. You just have to practice and learn your camera and learn what conditions are best to shoot in, how to shoot in different conditions, do all that stuff. But again, the most important thing to do is practice and try. I didn't know how to work this camera when I first got it. It took me a long time, but once you're able to put a camera in manual mode, you can take pictures with anything. So yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I love this camera, so I thought I would dedicate a whole video towards it. And yeah, hopefully I can just inspire someone to give photography a try and not be so intimidated by it. So yeah, if you did like today's video, please hit that like button and that subscribe button, and look forward to producing more photography content in the future. Awesome, hope you have a great day. See ya.